Alright, there we go. Hey, how's it going, YouTube? It's Krod here. I'm back with another good video for today. I wanted to talk about Miss Queen Claressa Shields today, aka the Quote. I wanted to basically state my piece of basically debating the question: is Claressa Shields the face of women's boxing? And I guess that the quick answer to this is yes, but let me explain why. I'll just go ahead with the first point. No woman is really doing what Claressa Shields is doing. She's taking risk while other women are just sitting behind and not really caring about the sport because, one, they probably think like, oh, well, the men, they dominate us and we can't do anything, blah, blah, blah. And Claressa's out here making moves where not a lot of women don't want to step up to the occasion and actually do the things that she is actively doing. So I actually give her props for that. Also, Amanda Serrano, she's doing her best. Probably not as much as compared to what Claressa is doing, but she is doing everything she can to develop her name and her brand and her legacy. And I love both of those ladies because those are true heroes of women's boxing. So I'm actually kind of happy that Claressa she's doing her thing and Amanda Serrano she's doing her thing. But for fighters like Savannah Marshall and Katie Taylor and all these women that don't even have that much credibility, they're being hyped up by all these mainstream, I'll call it like old media, boxing news networks like ESPN or DAZN or Top Rank or whatever type of bullshit it is. They're just giving these women all the shine, but they're not doing anything actively to grow the sport of women's boxing. And I find that absolutely horrendous because, there should be more women other than Claressa to come out of her way to try to keep the sport alive. Because I was talking to a friend the other day, and he pretty much admitted to me that, like me and him both agree that, if women's boxing continues to be this stale and this boring, where there's not that many fights for women to like be put on actual cards like where men fight on, then it just absolutely throws away the entire sport because what's keeping women's boxing relevant is Claressa Shields. Two division undisputed world champion. Just let the fastest reigning undisputed champion in two different weight divisions, faster than any male or female. So, I mean, Claressa's doing a lot of things that a lot of women are just saying no to because they don't want to take a risk with helping the sport of women's boxing grow. And hey, maybe one day, there will be one of those female version of Errol Spence or Terrence Crawford type fights where, women don't care about the pay. They just care about showcasing their talents and getting the most money out of a fight, but they just want to fight. And that's what I like about female boxing, where a lot of women are actually taking risk, but for the men, they don't want to take a risk. They don't want to actually give the fans what we've been asking for. And I'm actually going to make a video on the Jake Paul versus Ben Askren situation, but if you just take a look at it with all the women that I grew up with, like Christy Martin, Chevelle Hallback, Mia St. John, Regina Halmich, Belinda Laraquente, Samia Anani, Denise Morades, who else? Vonda Ward, Ann Wolfe. These are all household names that I can look back to and say, yeah, those people, like those females were very, good, decent fighters, and they actually did their thing to showcase their career and talents of who they are as female fighters. But not one woman out of that whole, whole roster itself actually did the things of what Claressa did. Not even Layla Ali, and yet women's boxing is like barely holding on. And I would be surprised if it even survives because just take a look at what the women are doing now. It's like, that the fights are stale. Women are fighting 2-minute rounds when it should be like 3-minute rounds. You know, like they're like honestly, I wanna see women go 12 rounds instead of 10 rounds. It's like, you know, it's absolutely horrible. But I just wanted to say that because, you know, I just think like, you know, Claressa Shields, she's really holding everything together, and that's what this video is mainly titled for. Is Claressa Shields the face of boxing, and you know, what's needed to be done to keep the sport alive, because it's just terrible where the sport is going, and I just feel like that women's boxing can easily dominate, probably more than men at like to a greater degree, or I would probably say maybe, but it would be like a little bit like 55-45 odds of like who does better on a fight card. But obviously boxing is a male dominated sport. That's something that I'm not going to disregard. Same thing with wrestling. But you know, it doesn't hurt for the females to just be put in there and just let them have their little blossom growth of all the up and coming female, you know, talent that could take over and dominate boxing, which they can. And I mean, I don't blame for like I don't blame anyone wanting to get inside the ring and punch someone in the face and get paid for it. But I think for women, like, you know, there shouldn't be any, you know, holdups of females not getting their opportunity to be put on television and actually like give a fight that people want to see. Not just like women just throwing punches, like actually see a good boxing match that is defensively sound and also like offensively gifted, because a lot of women are not afraid to throw the punches, but depending on the matchups and depending on the glove sizes and the rounds that are being, you know, initiated for the fight, it's like I'd like to see like 3-minute rounds instead of 2 minutes, because 2 minutes goes by extremely quick. You know, it's not enough time for a female to develop her punches, and you know, it's absolutely garbage to just see like a woman like Claressa Shields like not get enough time off a jab, and then she's not able to do the things that she can because she's limited to 2 rounds. But you know, I'll even use like, you know, the time where I actually even posted that same question on the Women's Boxing Network on or Women's Boxing Network Facebook group that I'm a part of, and good enough that I ran into Bonnie Canino online, and she pretty much said that there's nothing stopping women to do 3-minute rounds. It's the fact that women are probably not getting paid enough, so the sport alone does not really offer a wide enough market for all the ladies to actually like probably get paid, you know, fairly. Which, I mean, you know, I don't really care about that equal pay BS. It's nothing to do with like gender differences of like, oh, well, women just don't have like the same physical capacities as men to handle themselves in a fight. No, it's simply due to poor marketing. Male boxing is fine because, you know, yes, like despite boxing as a whole to be such a crappy business of people, you know, organizing fights depending on like where you start your career, but it's like boxing doesn't have a true organization that actually pays people at a good, well-income salary where you're guaranteed like the benefits and you're guaranteed everything. And that's how it should be, because boxing is a full-time sport. To the fighters, I don't look as a boxer as a contractor, because that's how people start abusing people and using them like a pawn in the game, where someone has to take control of their money and make it harder for you to gain more money, and I'm not for that. So I think what needs to be done to fix it is get rid of promoters in boxing. Same thing for the men's side. Promoters should be number one out of the picture, and then number two should definitely be like let the networks compete with one another more. Let fighters control their money, not let a promoter control it. Like, I mean, you could have promoters, but you could have just have them as a sponsor. That's what a promoter is. I promote the fight. I have the money. You can talk with me about what fights that you want to get made, and then I'm going to, you know, promote the fight. That's what a promoter is. A promoter should not be doing backdoor deals with other organizations behind closed doors and not let their fighter know what they're getting into. And then one day they could just say, "Oh, well, I don't like you, so I'm just gonna feed you to the wolves, with this guy or with this girl," and they have like a high chance of beating him, and blah blah blah. And it's like, no, dude, that's not what boxing is supposed to be. Yeah, it's about the best fighting the best, but it's not about the best getting screwed over by the not so best, and they probably get away with cheating or some form of corruptive behavior. So that definitely needs to get taken out of the picture, because it seems like there's way more corruption in men's boxing than it is with female boxing. But I say it's almost neck and neck. But to a certain degree, like, nobody should ever get screwed over with their money, and nobody shouldn't get screwed over with their life. And if nobody's not going to talk about it, then that's why boxing sucks ass. I want to keep it real with you. Like, for all you pro fighters that are watching, the reason why your sport sucks right now is because nobody's talking about it. Like how Deontay Wilder is coming out of his way exposing Tyson Fury, should be the same way how Claressa Shield comes out and explains what the hell is going on behind closed doors. She doesn't bring up anything of that. Which, I mean, she does in a certain degree of how women don't get paid as much, but she doesn't explain of like what these promoters are doing or what anybody is doing behind closed doors to actually expose the sport even more. And everybody wants to treat her like as if like she's like a queen, and I'm like, yes, she is a queen of the sport of boxing, but that does not mean that you criticize your own fighter when they're wrong. And I think what Claressa isn't doing is that she's not being loud on what the sport needs, because time is running out. When women's boxing is over, men's boxing will be over too. Which, I mean, it will slowly die out, but a little bit quicker in a more moderate sense. Because what's really keeping boxing alive is just the publicity around the sport, and that's what makes people like all pissed off at each other, calling each other names, having like race wars between each other, all these, politicized, egos that people have against their own fighter or other people's fighter, and then they use that as a form of division because they don't want their fighter to lose. Like Canelo Alvarez, I know he's watching me. I know anybody out of his whole team could be watching me, but how would I know? I can't tell what any of these people that do listen in could actually determine what I'm going to say about them. But why should it be private for me to know as a fan of what these fighters are getting themselves into? Like everybody knows what LeBron James gets into with his own team, with what deals are being made, with what shoe companies that want to do business with LeBron. But why can't we know as boxing fans of what fighters are doing with other fighters colluding, or with other promoters colluding with other agencies or people in different organizations that could possibly cheat for a fight? Bob Arum, he recently got caught with him, using unethical business practices with slave contracts towards his fighters, where they can't get out of the contract and they have to do more, how should I say, like, do more time with Top Rank rather than get out of the contract that it's like agreed upon, and then those fighters don't get paid as much. So, Top Rank is like similar to the UFC, where like the fighters don't get paid as much, but I'm pretty sure like they probably do get covered with what they have with insurances. But it's like, the UFC is just as shitty as Top Rank. The UFC is just like the the MMA version of Top Rank. But the only difference is that, the best fight the best, but the best are not getting paid like the best in boxing. Because Israel Adesanya got paid like what, less than $800,000 or $200,000, in his last fight with Blachowicz. He should be making $40+ million in the sport of boxing, which he should, and he should be covered if his money's not guaranteed. He should be covered with all insurances. Every fighter should. No fighter should ever be left out in case a fighter gets fucked over, and then that fighter should get justice for it. Deontay Wilder should be having his belt right now. Tyson Fury should be locked up, if not executed right now, because he's a criminal. Yes, he's a damn criminal. People don't want to admit it, but let me tell you something. If it happens in women's boxing and people don't speak up on it, then what do you think in men's boxing people are going to do? They're going to keep ignoring it. Yes, I'm always the listening in of what happens in both sides of the sport of boxing for the genders. But if nobody's not going to pick up the phone and actually speak up against the corruptions that are happening in female and men's boxing, then there's your answer. But I do respect Claressa Shields for doing her thing by being the face of women's boxing, because I do believe that she is doing her best and she's trying, but the whole world hates her as she keeps on doing it, and yet she doesn't know what else is really left for her to do, because she knows what she needs to get done, but you know, how can you make any success if nobody's not going to stand right behind you? And basically, you know, like, my final argument for this is that Claressa needs to have more women behind her. You need to have her, Amanda Serrano, Heather Hardy, have any of these ladies just do whatever it takes to get what they need to get. Because, you know, the problem is that a lot of women just don't want to talk it out. They're so, you know, I don't know if it's them, but I think it's just that they're just too afraid to actually speak up and say what they need to say about the sport. Because they know that if they do say something, people will start, you know, throwing all these bullshit, you know, rebuttals, you know, against them, and then they'll start flaming them like they do with men. Oh, Deontay Wilder claims that Tyson Fury, you know, cheated against him. Oh, come on, mate. That's so rubbish. Well, it's true, because there's evidence, and Deontay's not lying when he says it, right? So why the hell would he even lie about it? But if more people that back Deontay could actually co-sign against the, you know, or to co-sign with the allegations pushed against Tyson Fury, then more people will believe that, yeah, Tyson Fury, he's a fucking cheater. But for women's boxing, it needs to be like that too. Hey, women are not getting paid as much in boxing. Every fighter should be covered for the fights that they get into. They should not be left out financially broken and not being able to do what they want to do. Every fighter should be represented. I'm not calling for unions. I think unions are effing horrible. But let me tell you something. You cannot tell me in the sport of boxing that things will get better by just letting things just, basically ride by, where nobody doesn't say a goddamn word like about it. Well, no, fuck that shit, you know. And I'm happy that Claressa Shields is like the only person in the world to actually do what she needs to do, because if it wasn't for her, no women would ever be talked about in boxing. Nobody would give a crap about Michaela Mayer. Nobody would give a crap about Alicia Baumgartner. Nobody would care about women's boxing, and then the sport would get much worse, and then it would seriously die out within 5 years' time. If not, just 2 years. 2 years of, no women fighting as much. Just a couple little shows over here and there, but no big fights. Done. That's pretty much the lifeline of female boxing. But I'm actually happy that Claressa, she's doing her thing. She's trying her best to keep the sport back on its original backline or frontline, and I'm happy for her doing that, and I will continue to try to help out myself too. So yeah, man, be sure to be loud. Be loud on this. Please definitely expose the corruption of boxing itself, so that way the sport can get better. And yeah, that's pretty much it, man. Long live female boxing. Long live boxing as a whole. And all respect to Claressa Shields. So that's pretty much what I gotta say. Let me know what you guys think. Do you think Claressa Shields is the face of boxing? And what is needed to be done to fix the sport of women's boxing to make it just as popular as men, if not better? So let's go. Let's get it started. All right, I'll see you guys later. Thank you guys for watching. Bye.